This is the realistic and film-like quality you can achieve with Flux AI if you know how to use its settings properly and understand that Flux requires a different approach to prompting. So in this video we'll show you 4 simple techniques to get you started with this. With the first technique we'll guide you in creating realistic cinematic images. With the second technique, we'll demonstrate how to give the subject a rougher look. With the third technique, we'll fix plastic-looking faces and make them look more realistic. With the fourth technique, we'll fine-tune objects and add detail to the image. Let's start with number 1, using the guidance value correctly with the Realism Lora. This might seem straightforward, but it's easy to make mistakes, as I did when I started with Flux. You'll soon see where I went wrong. To follow along, you could use sites like Replicate or Flux AI. But I'll be using comfyui in the cloud on RunDiffusion, since some of these techniques need comfyui. But don't worry about all the spaghetti and the nodes, I'll show you how these nodes represent the same elements as in the Replicate UI. Later in the video I'll demonstrate how you can start this workflow in RunDiffusion with just one click, and I'll guide those using comfyui locally on how to set it up. Here we can change the aspect ratio, and I will add my futurism prompt in here. I'll leave the Flux guidance value to the default of 3.5. And here we can decide how many images we want to produce. And this is where the Realism Lora is located. Now I click the Q prompt button to start the image generation. We can see that woman is such a strong power keyword in Flux, it overrules everything. Notice how the hair comes through the helmet. We can also see that the skin looks very plasticky. Soon I'll show you how lowering the Flux guidance can fix both the hair and the skin issues and make our image look more cinematic. But first let's see what it does when we increase it. So I set the guidance value to 10. Now we see that with higher numbers we get cleaner, crisper results. But the skin still looks plasticky. For me this style is too perfect. It lacks the real life look I often want. The first time I used Flux I lowered the guidance to 1, thinking it would give me a more cinematic look to my image. The result was awful and convinced me not to go below 1. And that's where I went wrong. I couldn't achieve cinematic results with guidance values above 1, so I assumed Flux couldn't produce them. Then I dove deep into Reddit, where a user recommended using a guidance value of 0. Though I was skeptical at first, the results were amazing. As you can see in this shot, there's no more hair sticking out, the image looks much more lifelike and film-like, and the plastic look in the face became less as well. In Jimber's Reddit post, which I have permission to share, he tested guidance values from 0 to 100. As you can see, he also got poor results with a value of 1. Quick side note, the Flux dev model is licensed, so I recommend using it for personal projects only, unless you've purchased the appropriate license for commercial use. Let's add cinematic film still, chromatic bokeh backlight and dark orange cerulean colors. I'll also add white in front of our helmet, to avoid getting an image where our subject turns completely orange, as shown in this image. With this seed I was lucky and got the image I was looking for, but when I switched to random seed and generated 4 more images, I ended up with plastic looking faces on all of them. We'll fix this with technique number 3, but first let's move to technique 2, where I'll show you how adjusting the sampler and scheduler can give our image a rougher and grittier look. I want to start with a simple prompt to clearly demonstrate the changes. I begin with a woman in a street with an intense gritty atmosphere and set the Flux guidance to 3.5, but the result isn't very gritty. Changing the sampler to DPM2 and the scheduler to Keras improves the intensity and grittiness of our image, as you can see in this shot. But setting Flux guidance to 0 really shows the difference. The left image with DPM2 and Keras is much grittier, evident in the woman's clothing, face and overall look. The right image, using the default Euler and Simple, also has a more intense feeling, but it doesn't match the shot on the left and gives her face a slightly plastic appearance. Now, if we return to our Futurism woman prompt and compare the left image using DPM2 and Keras with the right image using Euler and Simple, the difference is subtle, but the left image is clearly grittier, especially in the helmet and outfit. When I set the scheduler to beta, the image becomes much smoother and looks almost perfect, particularly in the helmet and jacket. Personally, I find this a bit too smooth, as I often prefer a more lifelike and cinematic look. I've compiled all the Flux settings data from my testing into a PDF, available through a Google Drive link. To extend the research, I've created a post in the Stable Diffusion Techniques category on my Discord group. If you're doing any testing, it would be awesome if you could share your results there, or in the comment section here on YouTube. Once we have enough data, I'll share an updated PDF helping to strengthen the knowledge within our community. Before we dive into technique 3 and fix the plastic looking faces, I'll quickly show you how to set up the workflow locally and on RunDiffusion. After signing up on RunDiffusion, you'll get 25 cents of free credit, enough to create several images. Make sure to select the beta version of comfyui, then simply drag the workflow, which you can find through the link in the description below, into the web UI. Since this Realism Lora workflow by Hugging Face creator Markery is adapted by RunDiffusion, All you need to do is click on the Lora loader node and select the XLabs Realism Lora. Now everything is set and you can start creating images. If you've got a strong computer and already installed comfyui, in the announcement channel on my Discord I've added a detailed video that shows how to download all the models and the workflow and install this locally. And if you're new to Comfy, this is the most concise Comfy installation tutorial I found online. Now let's play with the max shift and base shift settings to fix the plastic looking faces. So before we fix the face from our futurism woman, I want to share that in my testing I discovered that fixing the plasticky faces with a flux guidance between 0 and 0.6 gave me the best results. To demonstrate this, I'll start with a prompt of a woman with realistic looking pale skin in a slip dress on a street. I set the guidance to 3 and leave the max shift and base shift in the model sampling flux node at the default values of 1.15 and 0.5. This results in an image with a very plastic looking skin. Lowering the max shift to 0.2 and the base shift to 0.2 reduces the plastic look, but it still doesn't appear very realistic. However, when I change the flux guidance to 0, we get a very realistic image with natural looking skin. On the left we see the image with low max and base shift values, and on the right a more shiny plastic look with the default max and base shift values. And this is the image from the intro, which has the same prompt and low max and base shift values but a different seed number. I fixed the plasticky skin from the futurism woman by lowering the max shift to 0.7 and the base shift to 0.2. This made the skin less shiny but also decreased the image brightness. Changing the max shift to 0.2 and the base shift to 0.2 further reduced the shininess, decreased the brightness even more and gave the skin a more realistic film-like appearance. Setting the max shift to 2.0 and the base shift to 0.8 gives our subject a very clear and shiny look, but it also adds more noise to the shot. Before we jump into technique 4, I want to mention that keywords like futurism, chromatic bokeh, backlighting, close-up, slip dress were all selected from our ultimate prompt toolkit with 1000+ illustrated keywords. If you're interested in this toolkit, then check out this link to our introduction video. In technique 4, we'll enhance objects and describe image details to fine-tune our results. Flux is excellent for plain language prompting. You don't need to stick to the classic list style prompting with commas between keywords. You can write detailed prompts as full sentences. I often use hybrid style prompting, which blends both methods. We've created an advanced prompt structure, which works very well with Flux and is perfect for all 3 prompting approaches. You can download the free PDF from our Gumroad page. I also used it for the long futurism woman prompt from the intro, which made it easy to balance the style, subject and effects. Now let's return to our short futurism prompt and set the guidance to 3.5. You'll notice that the hair is sticking through the helmet again. So before we are going to describe the image for more detail, I'm going to reduce the weight of the word woman, since it's such a strong power keyword within Flux. To do this, I select the word woman, hold down the Control key and press the down arrow key until I reach 0.1. Now we can see that there's no more hair sticking out. To demonstrate how well Flux responds to detailed descriptions, I'm going to add with cracks in the plastic and scratches on the glass to my prompt. This shows that Flux is very responsive to details, but you'll notice that with the guidance scale set to 3.5, Flux struggles to create these imperfections. As the guidance scale at 3.5 aims to create crisp and clean images, so the cracks in the glass appear somewhat artificial, almost photoshopped. Now, if we change the guidance scale to 1.6, you'll see that we get a much more lifelike and realistic looking image, ideal for AI filmmaking. However, the word plastic also caused the outfit to appear as plastic, so we can fix this by adding cotton outfit to the prompt. The outfit now looks great, but I'm not entirely satisfied with the helmet, so I'm going to go seed hunting by setting the seed to randomize and generate 4 images. Out of these 4, I prefer this one. I find the right image much more realistic and film-like. While Flux is still new and these techniques might not work on every image, I'm confident that with these 4 techniques you'll have a greater control over your creations. Another way to shape your images is by using mood modifiers and color tones to create different looks like intense and gritty, joyful, dark, mysterious or depressing. And in this video I'll show you exactly how you can do this.